Howdy, folks. This is the first episode of JHR Backstage, our brand new companion podcast that's going to run alongside the regular show that we actually just finished taping. This will be a podcast where we go over some of the upcoming albums and upcoming concerts, something that used to be super big in the original show that we couldn't really sustain in season 3 and stuff because the taping schedule was so hectic. Here in the room with me right now is series director Varys Connolly.
Hello.
That doesn't really know a single thing about the music that we talk about on this show.
No.
But he's here, and I just needed a co-host. That's essentially what happened here, although I am happy to have him here.
Happy to be here.
So I know on the episode, if you guys haven't watched it, you should go ahead and do that. The album review corner for this episode was The Killer's new album, Pressure Machine. Now,
what an interesting name for an album.
Yeah, well,
Pressure
of course,
Machine?
you would know The Killers from Somebody Told Me and Mr. Brightside, and they've
Sure.
come quite the ways since that song was popular. The album's just okay. You can get a better feel for my thoughts on it in the actual episode. Inevitably, I'm going to probably be recording this shortly after this podcast is done. So, however, I did want to just take this podcast essentially to do maybe a bit of a 2020 year in review kind of thing, because obviously there was no album review corner or at all throughout 2020. And so a ton of albums did come out in 2020. Could talk about some of them here, as well as some general updates about what's going to probably be happening with this podcast as a whole. One of the first albums that comes to mind, in fact, it was one of the CD dressings on the set, was the new 21 Pilots album, Scaled and Icy. Mm-hmm. It's a very different album. Have you listened to any of it? I know, being around
I feel like I've heard it in your car.
It was in my car for a while.
Yeah. Isn't it the album they wrote when they were right next to each other and they'd mail each other? So
Level of Concern was released during quarantine as a standalone single. It wasn't released on the album, which he had come on to record now because a bunch of people asked about it, saying that song was never meant to be on the album because it's a very COVID specific song, so it doesn't make any sense to have it on Scaled and Icy. It
makes sense. Although I know that bands like JHR, they made, I think, Bummerland was their COVID song, or was that Bang? That
was their COVID song, definitely, Bummerland. But Bummerland, regardless of its COVID connections, could just be a general message of
true.
Oh, well, now I got to change all my plans because something got in the way. It doesn't have to just be COVID. However, Level of Concern was would you be my little quarantine?
It's not less
very
broad,
specific.
More specific to the situation. That makes sense.
But no, Scaled and Icy, the 3 singles off that were Shy Away, Choker, and Saturday, which this is a much different album for them. It's a very different album from them, actually, which Tyler Joseph has already said essentially was just supposed to be a much brighter side of things because Trench was so dark.
Yep.
Trench was a very, very sad album. So he wanted something a little happier this go around. And I mean, he achieved it, I think, because there's definitely a good vibe to this album. Although the biggest thing that I can say, which I find hilarious, is that it's super dark if you actually listen to the lyrics.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's like a case scenario of the band Fun.
Yeah,
where it's
exactly.
The lyrics are depressing to hyped up electric keyboards.
It's the standard fueled by ramen treatment.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're singing about really sad things to really upbeat music. Fun was the king of that.
Yeah.
Fun was the best at doing that at some nights, especially. And I feel like AJR is too.
Oh yeah.
AJR is very good at doing that.
Definitely.
Which that's actually a really good jumping pad to something that you actually have listened to
over and over again for the past few months.
Other big album, at least in my world, that came out in 2020, or was that 2021 already? I don't remember. Regardless, it was before the show taped.
Yeah.
But OK Orchestra, the fourth album from AJR.
No, it was 2021.
Was it 2021?
Because on the One Spectacular Night, which was their one night event, they showed.
That was the premiere of My Play, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. My Play, yeah. They showed the animation, and there's oh, it's coming up on the new album. I think the album came out in March.
That sounds about right.
Of 2021, if I remember correctly. And then I ended up buying that before I got my job at a place that I'm not going to talk about. But and then I listened to it on my way to and from work, like all the time. So yeah, that album cuts deep.
It really does. And honestly, it's weird how you wouldn't think AJR could get any deeper than they already have in the Click and Neo Theater.
I mean,
and yet
seriously,
they just continue to get deeper and deeper.
Yeah. I feel like quarantine pulled something out of all of us. They were like
definitely did.
Something that we weren't able to feel before was ripped out, and we were just like, oh, you have these emotions, by the way. And it's like, oh, thank you very much.
I mean, it definitely helps, like in our case at least, that Jack, the lead singer of AJR, is about our age. He's like, I think he's like 2 or 3 years older than us.
Yeah, that would help. Yeah,
we're going through the same periods of life with him, so I think his writing hits a little harder to like, hit the general age demographic of early 20s, because that's
where he is. That's where we are.
Yeah, that's where we are.
That makes sense.
I liked OK Orchestra quite a bit, although it took a playthrough or two to fully grasp in on me. At first, I wasn't sure of the new, like, I wouldn't call it the new sound, because it does sound very AJR still, but they definitely tried some different things this go around.
I'll be honest with you. I would say probably I could go on record saying that OK Orchestra so far is my favorite album.
I could probably
from
say that too, honestly, because like the Click is a very, very, very close second if we're going to have that fight.
Yeah.
Because the Click, to me, there wasn't a single skippable song on that entire album.
No.
But on the flip side, Neo Theater had a couple of duds that I didn't really like that much.
I didn't like Neo Theater as super much. I listened to it a lot when we would drive around and we'd listen to it in your car. I listened to a lot of songs. Like, okay, some of these are pretty good, but there was a lot of them where I'm like, they're missing it. And then OK Orchestra comes out, and I was like, okay, this slap.
Is better. Yeah, this is much better.
It's got like 1 or 2 skippables.
Yeah,
but like other than that, I was like, no, this is.
I wouldn't even say that it has. Which songs would you consider skippables on OK Orchestra?
Well, it's also down to personal taste.
Fair
for me.
Fair.
So like, I don't really like listening to. What is it's the one that sounds like it came from a SpongeBob with like the ukulele, and it sounds like Hawaiian kind of. I can't remember what it's called.
That's just AJR, man.
I know. But like the one that like really, really honed in on it. I can't remember what the name of it is because I haven't listened to it. God, what is it called? I can't remember. I'd have to look at the album.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
That's all right.
But there are a few on there. One that I do know the name of is Joe.
Joe's one of my least favorites on the album, but it definitely, after a couple of playthroughs, grew on me a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah. None of them are bad.
Yeah.
There's not a single bad song on there. It all comes down to personal preference. Like, okay, what do I want to listen to?
Yeah.
I would definitely say that my top 3 favorite songs on there, though, would be Bummerland, Bang, and Way Less Sad. Those are my favorites.
Yeah, I would say Way Less Sad takes number 1 spot for me. And then... Bang is definitely up on there. Bang, when they first released that as a single, because obviously I think there was like a 6-month divide between when Bang came out and when OK Orchestra actually came to be.
It was a while, yeah.
But like when they first released Bang, oh my god, did I not stop playing that for days?
I know. I was the same way. That was like, this song is so perfect. And then like I watched the music video and I was like, this just makes it even better. And I absolutely adored it so much, and I was like, I can't stop listening to the song. It's a bang.
Yeah, and then and then I would say my third behind Way Less Sad and Bang would probably have to be Ordinary-ish People, because I just really like the Blue Man Group's contribution to that song.
The lyrics for that one, I relate a lot to the lyrics in that song, and so I was like, I love this so much. Like that would definitely probably take 4th for me, because it's such a good piece of music. And like that album in general, like I listened to it on repeat all the freaking time, and I was like,
absolutely. As
soon as I hear the overture, like the opening overture, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a great one, guys.
Yeah.
That definitely AJR killed it this time. And it's weird to think that was 2021, because I feel like that came out in 2020, but it might have been because of Bang and Bummerland coming out months before the album was even announced.
Yeah.
We just knew they were going to be on some mysterious new album that they hadn't talked about yet.
Yeah.
So like,
Well, I mean, that's also a thing too, right? Is that March of 2021 feels like an eternity ago.
It does.
It was
really
only.
does.
I mean, to even think that it was 6 months ago is crazy. But it doesn't feel like it feels longer than that. It feels like it was like a year ago.
It definitely does.
Yeah,
which is really odd to think about. But moving back to like year in review kind of albums now, after a little brief tangent there with JHR and OK Orchestra, we also had Water Parks' fourth album. Yes, it would be fourth album, called confusingly Greatest Hits.
It sounds more like a compilation.
It isn't their greatest hits. Like, it isn't a compilation. It is an original album. I don't know why. It definitely comes from. I can definitely tell they took it from a lyric in one of the songs that's like, the songs go like this on my greatest hits, and like I'd assume that's where they got that album title from. But like, listening to the lyrics of some of those songs, there are far better album titles hiding in there.
Like, as somebody who takes naming conventions very seriously, like if I saw where's like Water Parks Greatest Hits, I'd be like, so
it's
like
Greatest Hits compilation.
It's a good place to start because it's like, like it's a bunch of their best songs and I can just jump right in. But when you can't do that because like then people who don't know their music are going to look at that and they're going to be like, oh, it's just the greatest hits, and then it's like, no, it's just called that, it's like,
it's their fourth album. It's true, it's actually a real fourth album.
Kind of silly, but that's okay. It's, I don't know. It's one of those things. You have to be very careful with naming conventions because then you get confused with stuff like that, which is why I'm very careful when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I mean, I always at any point have like 6 or 7 album titles just on deck waiting. Like, I have a document on Google Docs.
I guess it's worth mentioning we're both music artists.
We are, yeah. Which I think I've talked about. Well, actually, there was an entire episode about my musical career, but that was back in was 2014.
Give them a little refresher. Where can they find you? What's your name?
So right now I'm going under the name DJ Witchcraft, and I'm on every streaming service, every major one. I am currently working on my fourth album. I had to think about that for a second because it's been a while, but I'm currently working on the fourth album. It's EDM, like electronica music and stuff like that. But way back 2014, last episode of the original run of this show of James's House of Rock, I did like a music biography of myself with all of the old, like, I wouldn't even know what to call them anymore. I did like, I wrote my own lyrics and sang them, but had no instrumental talent, so it was just singing songs on, and that was it. And I released like 7 albums that way, actually more probably.
Yeah,
I don't even know anymore. But I did my little shameless self promotion. So what about yours?
It's my turn.
I know you just had one come out a couple weeks ago.
I did. So I go under the Sketched Out Orchestra,
which I love that name. Although I miss your old Ballad of the Snails too. I feel like both were pretty good.
That was I remember. I went through a few band name ideas. It was almost Ballad of the Snails, and then I changed it to the Sketched Out Orchestra. But you can find me, again, like James here, you can find me anywhere. Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music.
Yeah, whatever they want to call it. It's just it's iTunes.
Yeah,
you can call it whatever you want.
I checked off every box on DistroKid. You can go find it. You'll find it.
Just type Sketched Out and you'll probably have
literally
9 million options to listen to this stuff. Yeah.
I was actually very pleasantly surprised to find that if you type my name out on Google, I'm the first thing to come up, and I have my own little like biography thing, and I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be in the big leagues.
I got my own like little like Google like musical artist plate when you search me up. I like it.
It's so fun. But I just had an album come out called Welcome to My Dreams, and what album am I even on at this point? Because
I don't know if you're numbering them, but I think we're in like the 6th or 7th.
I think we're on like
this point.
6 or 7. I want to double check because I can't remember. Because it's actually funny because Spotify and iTunes and all these other services, so they only count that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is album 6.
Yep.
However, I technically had another album. So we're technically on 7, but since that album was only like 5 songs long, it counted it as an EP.
Okay.
So, but it's called the Vaporwave album.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
But since it doesn't have enough songs,
it used to be VHS Arcadia, right?
It's still called that. I believe it's VHS Arcadia, and the subtitle is like the Vaporwave album, and that's because I thought it was enough songs for an album, and then it wasn't, and now it's an EP called the Vaporwave album. I'm like, all right, I guess it's technically an EP.
I mean,
so, yeah.
it can be whatever it wants to be.
It's true.
Its parents don't care. It can express itself.
Yeah. There you go.
I didn't even really, other than the fact that it was a stupid naming convention, we hadn't even really talked about Greatest Hits as an album.
Right.
So let's jump back to this podcast, at least for probably the first couple episodes, just to warn you, it will probably be all over the place, considering, especially this particular episode, we don't really have any talking points. We just wanted to get a feel for how
we were going to do this.
Was going to go.
Yeah.
I had an idea on what I wanted to talk about with the whole 2020 year in review kind of thing of stuff that happened that we didn't get to cover.
Yep.
But beyond that, it kind of can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Greatest Hits was weird. It's a very weird album. They started as a Good Charlotte style pop punk band on their first 2 albums, and then they started getting really weird in their 3rd album, and then they kind of mixed the 2 styles in their 4th album, where it's the old Good Charlotte style pop punk mixed with this weird experimental something. I don't even know what I would call it anymore.
It sounds like AJR done wrong.
It's AJR but edgy.
Oh,
that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, so what I said, AJR gone wrong. Yeah.
So the album is 18 songs long, 17 songs, I think. And if this is any testament to how some of the songs are, after track 11, I just skipped straight back to the first track. I skipped through the rest of the album because it's just not good.
Oh,
honestly, if Greatest Hits ended at track 11, which is Fruit Roll-Ups is the name of the song, it would have been a fantastic album. It probably would have gotten like an 8 or 9 out of 10 for me. But the fact that there's 6 other songs stapled onto there that I have to skip through every time I want to get back to the good stuff.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's a sign of a bad album to me. They should have been like a less is more approach. I understand the appeal in the market of like having 17 songs, but like,
because it's kind of like a milestone of sorts.
Yeah.
You know, or it's like,
but like if they're not good songs, then
well, that's fair too.
Yeah, because like Blink-182 did the same thing on the California Deluxe Edition when that came out. So obviously they released the album California, and then like about 6 months later or so, I don't really remember anymore, they released California Deluxe Edition, which had an additional 14 songs from the already 14 song long first California.
So it was like 28 songs.
It was like
long?
28 songs. It was 2 CDs. Like the deluxe edition was a CD of its own.
Oh my god!
It literally could have been released as its own album if they wanted to, and that was done right. Like those songs were good. Like it, and they even said like a lot of these were just like last minute chopping blocks of the main album by itself. So like it makes sense that these were good, but Waterpark should have probably done a similar thing where these other 6 songs were maybe like a deluxe edition, because then it would hurt a little less.
Yeah. It would hurt. That's funny.
The only other ones that I can immediately think of off the top of my head, and while I'm in the middle of this conversation, I'm not trying to think of other ones.
Yeah.
Weezer did some things.
Really?
And depending on who you ask, it was good or bad things. So Weezer is one of those bands that likes to never do anything the same twice. Mm-hmm. Every album is different.
Okay, so it's like Taylor Swift kind of thing.
Yeah, well, kind of. Mm-hmm. Except just like they don't change styles necessarily, but they change how they do things almost every single album now.
Okay.
Because they released 2 albums last year, back to back to each other.
Wow.
Van Weezer, which was a play on Van Halen, the band Van Halen, but Van Weezer, which was a rock and metal guitar driven album.
Okay, interesting.
And then they did OK Human, which I find really funny that it was alongside OK Orchestra.
Yeah.
But it's called OK Human, which was an orchestra, like slower song based album.
Interesting.
It was. I love OK Human. Van Weezer was terrible. Like, OK Human was really good, except the one thing I wish happened was, so the first song on OK Human is called All My Favorite Songs.
Yeah. And
it's a fantastic song on its own right, but then like 2 or 3 months later after the album came out, they did a version with AJR.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
All My Favorite Songs, which is infinitely better than the actual one that was on the album. Yeah. AJR puts the perfect touch on that song. And my one gripe with OK Human now is I wish they had put the AJR version on the album. Like, I want that version of the song to listen to on the album instead of the actual version. Like,
it really says something when somebody covers your song and it sounds better.
Well, so they didn't really cover it necessarily. I would call it more of a remix.
Oh, okay.
Like, you know how they, like, most bands do, like, oh, this song, like, DJ whatever remix. Kind of thing. I would consider the redo of All My Favorite Songs with AJR to be more of a remix of All My Favorite Songs rather than a cover. Because it still features Rivers Como. It's just in addition to Jack singing along with him in this time. And they added a new verse for AJR. And I really do think like Rivers Como and Jack Met work really well together. And I want them to do more stuff in the future. Because obviously Rivers Como was on Sober Up on the Click. They're good friends. He helped make the Click happen.
Right.
So like I want them to do more stuff together because obviously All My Favorite Songs has been great. Sober Up was great. And reading like the comments of the video that they posted of that, they didn't have a music video. They just had an audio of it.
Yeah.
Everybody pointed out extremely correctly that this song both sounded like a Weezer song and an AJR song at the exact same moment. Like,
wow,
it sounded like both bands perfectly mixed.
Damn.
And I'll play it for you after we're done here. And
yeah.
if we didn't get copyrighted, I would just play it here on the podcast.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll play, 3 seconds? I can play royalty free before I get in trouble. Is it 5 seconds? It's some stupid low number.
YouTube is like 10 seconds, but I don't know what it is on other platforms, which is
this isn't monetized, so it's not like anything bad
well,
will happen. I'm not going to lose any money over it.
Probably not, but I wouldn't risk it anyway.
I probably wouldn't either, but just I'm going to look up the law and then I'm going to do a quick, and here it is if I read the law right.
Yeah, we couldn't get it. Wow, cool. Wasn't that incredible?
You either heard complete silence, me film something else really stupid, or the actual song, depending on what the result of my Google search will be tonight. But
if there was silence, just fill it in with this. Yeah, we couldn't get it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Just use that.
I'll do that. So yeah, there was a lot of good music. Oh, I forgot All Time Low's "Wake Up Sunshine." That was a fantastic album. That was one of their best.
No, didn't that happen before Quarantine?
No, that was the first singles came out before Quarantine did.
Right, that's what it was.
And then the album was supposed to come out at around March of 2020. Mm-hmm. And then for obvious reasons, it got pushed back and it ended up coming out sometime in the summer.
Right.
I love that album so much. It is their best one that they've ever done. And it is a huge revival from the mixed feelings I had towards Last Young Renegade, which was the album just before this one. Mm-hmm. Have you listened to, I know you like All Time Low, but have you listened to Wake Up Sunshine yet?
One of their singles before we went on quarantine was in my Spotify playlist. I can't remember which one it was though. I think it had two. It
was Sleeping In was one of them. And then
it was like two phrases put together. Separated by a comma.
I'm gonna look it up here. I forgot the luxury of filming a podcast is that none of you can see me, so I can just look at my phone while we're at this.
That's why I was like, I'm gonna check my album count.
Yeah,
and then
it's weird because I'm used to being in front of a camera. So
yeah, it's changing formats is strange sometimes. I've done podcasts a few times, but like this is still new and strange.
Some Kind of Disaster was the first single. Some Kind of Disaster was the first single, and then they did Sleeping In, Getaway Green, and Melancholy Kaleidoscope were all singles of that album too, but they came much later. Melancholy Kaleidoscope was one of those ones that they released when the album released as like a promotional single. Mm-hmm. Same with Getaway Green, but yeah, Some Kind of Disaster was the first single off that, and that came out towards the end of 2019. I think it was.
I'm trying to find... I'm not going to be able to find it. Yeah. I was trying to find the song, but the playlist that it's in, I can't find it. So just whatever.
That's all right. So in terms of upcoming concerts, that's the one other thing we haven't talked about yet, because concerts are a thing that can happen again.
Yeah.
I didn't really do any research for this particular episode.
I mean,
I know most of the stuff isn't happening until the fall for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, I was supposed to go to a concert last year.
Did that ever get rescheduled, or is that still just flat out canceled?
I've not seen a single fucking thing of that. Because it was like, so to fill in the context of the people that are missing it, I was supposed to go see an Anamanaguchi concert.
Yep.
And it was supposed to happen last year, I think in like April.
Something like that.
It was like April, and then
it was July.
And they were like, all right, we'll do it during the summer, and then for obvious reasons, didn't happen.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, we'll reschedule it eventually. But I haven't seen a single mention. I haven't gotten an email. I haven't seen any Instagram posts of like, this is when it's coming back. And so my hope is that like when like summer, fall comes around, they're like, hey, remember when we were going to do that? But I have a funny feeling that they just canceled it.
Yeah. Did you get your money back?
I don't know if I did, so that's a very good question that I should look into.
You should probably look into that.
Because I'm curious.
Yeah, considering how expensive most concert tickets are.
Yeah, I don't think... No, these ones I don't think were that bad.
Well, I mean, they're not...
But still, they're not cheap.
Yeah, they're definitely not cheap.
But they weren't that bad. I think it was actually only like $20 a ticket.
That's not too bad.
No, it wasn't that bad.
It's the service fees that they get you at. Because, like, the Killers are playing in October, I think it is, at TD Garden. And I think it's October next year. And the tickets themselves are only like $25 a piece.
Yeah.
But then it's more money for this per service fee than it is for the tickets. It's like $26 service fee for each ticket.
Jesus.
So like it ended up being like $80 for 2 tickets.
Wow. Jesus.
Which that's atrocious.
Yeah.
Like,
that's pretty bad.
I intend to just go to TD Garden and purchase the tickets because then you could skip most of the service fees if you just buy it from the box office. The problem with that is that you have to line up the timing perfectly for when the box office is open.
That's also true.
The box office to TD Garden, as far as I remember from doing this before, is only open an hour or two before events and then like an hour after events.
Seriously?
And that's it.
So you'd have to like
You'd have to know what event is happening at TD Garden and then go a couple hours before that.
Wow.
to play the box office, yeah.
Jeez. Is it better to go before or after?
I'd imagine before, because then you have to fight people going out.
That's fair, yeah.
You go a little after, then, or a little before, then you might miss the bulk of the crowd.
That's true.
But yeah, it's really stupid how box offices work most of the time.
That is stupid.
It's like, I don't want to research the next event going on at TD Garden just so I can line up my trip to Boston to go do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I know a lot of concerts don't happen again starting to the fall. My next one, it was so weird buying concert tickets again. It was really weird buying concert tickets again.
It was weird going to a movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I went to go see Black Widow, and that was insane.
Yeah, I went to go see Black Widow, and then I actually just saw Free Guy
I want to see that. But yeah, no, I just started buying concert tickets again, and it's so wild to like, it's a weird feeling. I feel like I haven't done it in so long.
Bizarre, yeah.
My next one is Motion City Soundtrack for what is now the 17th anniversary of Commit This to Memory.
Oh my God.
Because it's that's in January. But it was supposed to be the 15th anniversary tour, which obviously made a lot more sense. And that was going to be in 2020.
Oh, well.
And then it got moved to 2021 and it was renamed the 16th anniversary tour. And now it's in the beginning of 2022. So it's the 17th anniversary tour. And
please tell me it's like they're Xing it out. I love
the poster literally has the 15th crossed out with 16 written in like marker underneath it. And then that crossed out and 17th written on the bottom.
That's so incredible.
Like, they just kept using the same one and just kept modifying it.
I love that because there's a bit of an off topic, but Scott Pilgrim just had their thing recently, and I got a shirt and it said "Happy 11th Anniversary," and then right underneath it says, 10th.
Yeah,
and I think that's an homage to like the celebrating the game or the comic or the movie.
Yeah,
and so it's just funny. I love it when like
everything all at once.
Yeah. I love it when companies do that because it's funny where they're just like crossing it out, or they're like, "Oh, whoops, I meant this," or like it's just I love it when they do that.
So we are just about running out of time, which is wild because I didn't think we'd fill the full half hour.
Yeah,
but what'd you guys think? We'd love to hear back from you. You can either email us your thoughts. Who emails anymore? But it's jameshouserock@gmail.com. DM us on Instagram. It's also James House of Rock. I'll do my best to respond to the probably 5 people that'll actually respond to this. But I'd love to hear what you had to say because I had a lot of fun doing this, a lot more fun than I thought it would. And it might be better if I actually have talking points and some research done into these episodes, but I feel like we filled the half hour pretty well without it.
Yeah, I mean, we're good at shooting the shit, so.
This will be a weekly podcast. alongside the main show that'll probably be released at just about the same time. So yeah, keep an eye out. Watch the main show. Listen to this podcast and go listen to JHR Jam Session, our new or not new anymore, but our collaborative EP that came out early last year, shortly after the pandemic started. So I'll see y'all next week, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.
See you later.